Thanks, Wolf, and good evening, everyone, including our viewers around the world this evening. Tonight, some major changes in the Obama White House account of just how Osama bin Laden was killed. We are now told the al-Qaeda leader was not armed when he was fatally shot, first in the chest, then in the head. Does that matter to you? And maybe this tonight, a more important question. Will it matter on the Arab street? The White House is also backing away tonight from the initial account that a woman, perhaps one of bin Laden's wives, was used as a human shield during the nearly 40-minute firefight. We've also learned these important developments today. I'm told the CIA was tasked with picking several photos of bin Laden's corpse for public release, and the CIA Director, Leon Panetta, just told our congressional producer, Ted Barrett, he believes the photos will ultimately be released, although the White House tonight says no final decision has been made. Also, a source tells CNN's Jessica Yellen the Navy SEALs left the bin Laden compound, get this, with 5 computers, 10 hard drives, more than 100 DVDs, CDs, and thumb drives. Officials hope those drives include valuable intelligence about al-Qaeda. And our senior congressional correspondent, Dana Bash, is told that CIA Director Panetta responded bluntly when asked a short time ago at a classified Capitol Hill briefing for lawmakers this question, whether Pakistan was aware bin Laden was hiding within its borders. Panetta said, quote, "We are told either they're involved or incompetent. Neither place is a good place to be." To the White House in a moment, but first, the bin Laden compound in Pakistan. CNN's Nick Robertson is in Abbottabad, and he walked the perimeter of that property today.
He couldn't have been hiding in any more plain sight than this. Around 3 sides of the compound are farmers' fields, cabbages down here, potatoes back there, marijuana plants, right up to the side of the compound. Plain sight, the farmers were working these fields, and he was just over the wall.
You're learning about this compound and the town where Osama bin Laden was living, as you say, in plain sight. Nick, let's check and see if you can hear the conversation. Now we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. We just showed a glimpse of the daylight hours, Nick Robertson. Now that night has fallen, give us a better sense of what you're learning about inside this compound and just how bin Laden was living.
Very secretively, people we've talked to who live right next to his compound, one man whose house overlooked it just 50 yards away, told me that when children's balls, their soccer balls, went over the wall, the family would just give them money rather than let them into the compound, which is normal in the area, to get the balls back. They would just give them money and say, okay, go buy another ball. The family had a reputation for being secret. They didn't leave the compound. There were late-night visitors, SUVs, very expensive luxury vehicles for this area. That was noticed. People thought that they were gold merchants, businessmen, but with a sort of shady background. But this is a place where people keep themselves to themselves. If you're not invited into your neighbor's house, you don't ask questions. It's rude to look from the roof of your building into your neighbor's compound. So this is an area where if you want to be left alone, you can be left alone. And that's what happened to bin Laden here. Everyone we talked to is surprised that he was found right here. John?
And Nick, you and your crew had some access today and took some exclusive images. We've seen other images come out of medicine bottles inside, socks inside, the place in obviously a mess, a chaotic mess after the raid. What do we know about what was on the inside, how fancy, if you will, and what type of equipment they might have had on the inside?
Well, there was some medication that was found. It's not clear what that medication was. It's being called a $1 million compound or building. We haven't been able to nail that figure down with Pakistanis who live around here. They're not aware of exactly how much it costs or even who the land was purchased from in the first place. But it does appear to be a cut above what you would find. The furniture inside, the beds look quite nice. You compare them with what we saw in some of the houses that we went through to get onto the roofs today. It's clearly a place where people had a little bit more money. The computer hard drives, very, very interesting that all those, all that software and hardware has been discovered there. Of course, back in 2001, in Kandahar, where bin Laden was living. He had a stockpile, a library of videotapes that CNN was able to get at one point. So he clearly is somebody who stockpiles information about himself and what interests him. So perhaps that's what's going to be found here as well, John.
And Nick, you mentioned a neighborhood that's a cut above, a complex that's a cut above within that neighborhood, less than a mile from the Pakistani equivalent of West Point. How is the government explaining that the U.S.'s most wanted man, perhaps the world's most wanted man, was living, perhaps for a couple of years, right there?
It is hard to understand exactly how it could happen. The neighbors, of course, one can see that they wouldn't know. But this is a building that is out of place in some context. There are sort of questionable comings and goings late at night. It stands out for various reasons. It didn't have internet. It didn't have a telephone connection. So how can all this have been missed? Well, the army base is perhaps 10 to 15 minutes walk away. It doesn't really have a plain line of sight over the house. But a senior source within Pakistan's intelligence services, the ISI, said, look, are we embarrassed that we missed this? Yes, we are. Does it mean we're incompetent or we weren't trying? No. They're very touchy about it. The government, you get the impression, really wants to move on quickly. They don't want a lot of attention drawn to this. There could be a backlash. But it does seem to be raising huge questions, not only externally, but also internally. How could they have missed this? It does make the country and the intelligence and security services look very bad, John.
Nick Robertson on the ground for us live tonight, right near the bin Laden compound. Nick, thanks so much. We'll keep in touch. Now, the White House tonight blames the fog of war for conflicting accounts of how the raid went down. The biggest revision? The new account that bin Laden was not armed when he was shot and killed. Initially, the White House counterterrorism advisor John Brennan said he was armed and may have fired a few shots. Ed Henry is with us now with more. And Ed, let's start with that. The discrepancies in the account, the White House says fog of war. Are they confident now that they have a consistent, clear, factual account of what happened, or are they worried they're still mixed up on a few things?
Well, they believe they have most of it, but they do add the caveat that they are right now in the process of interviewing these Navy SEALs. And they say, look, accounts change. All of these SEALs were under extremely high-pressure situation. And if you're in one room or a different floor, you may have seen something different than others. And they're trying to compare all of these accounts. The bottom line is, why is this important? Beyond the credibility of the administration, why it's also important is if bin Laden did not have a weapon, as the White House now says he did not, the question is, were they justified in killing bin Laden, or should they have captured him and maybe gotten more intelligence out of him? A bottom line is that some intelligence officials are saying, look, as soon as bin Laden, even if he didn't have a weapon, the fact that he did not put up his hands and surrender, they could not risk, the Navy SEALs could not, that he might get away again and continue to be out on the lam and terrorizing people, number one. And number two, there's also a sense here within the administration that this is someone that, you know, I asked one official, for example, would it have been more valuable to capture him instead of kill him? This official said, look, we think it's pretty valuable having bin Laden where he is now, which is dead. And oh, by the way, we've gotten a lot of intelligence anyway. Those computer hard drives you mentioned, other things that were found at the compound. They think they got the best of both worlds, that bin Laden is now dead. He's no longer a terrorist threat. And secondly, they got a lot of intelligence anyway, John.
And Ed, I'm going to explore this a bit deeper in a minute, but let's get the very latest information. Leon Panetta, in an interview recorded earlier today with NBC News, said, yes, a photo will ultimately be released, but we're not quite so sure, are we?
We're not. And in fact, the Defense Secretary Bob Gates was here behind closed doors in the Oval Office with the President and Vice President a little earlier today. They're still going through this. There's some people within this administration who feel strongly that in the interest of transparency, just get it out there. It's going to leak one way or another. It'll be on WikiLeaks. It'll be somewhere ultimately, as Leon Panetta said. So why not let the U.S. government control its release and do it that way? But the others are saying, look, these photos are gruesome. They show Osama bin Laden after he was hit in the head, and there's blood. It's gruesome, etc. and this is not the kind of thing that maybe should be on the front pages of America's newspapers. And so I think there's a lot of back and forth about this right now because they have not decided that issue, and the fact that if you put it out there, it may inflame the Muslim world, something when you've got U.S. military bases and others on a high state of alert right now. Do you really want to inflame the Muslim world, John?
And Henry, for us live at the White House tonight, let's reinforce the point Ed was just making. The debate goes on at the White House tonight about whether to release these photos. There are some who say, as Ed noted, you have to release them because there are all these conspiracy theorists. The Taliban, for example, saying today, prove it. We don't believe that Sheikh bin Laden is dead. And to echo Ed's point, here's the Deputy National Security Director, Dennis McDonough at the White House, Deputy National Security Advisor, saying one of the fears is if you release these photos, and the White House acknowledges they are gruesome, that it could put Americans overseas, including military personnel, at risk.
We're not going to add to the public record here anything that puts at risk our troops, puts at risk our intelligence personnel, puts at risk our diplomats, or even private Americans overseas.
Now, the White House did release this photo yesterday. Take a look at it. It has generated international attention because of the urgent and the nervous expressions on the face of the Obama War Cabinet as it received live updates Sunday on the Pakistan raid. Well, what are they watching? Look at this. Here's a previously released Situation Room photograph showing, if you look down at the end there, monitors at the end, monitors to the left and the right, all available to the president and his team. We're told in this case most of the live information was coming from the CIA, which we know was among the first customers for these, the Perceptive Pixel multi-touch screens that we at CNN have used since our election coverage back in 2008. What were they watching? Well, it could be something just like this. Now, this is a CNN simulation, but we do know a bit about the technology available to the CIA and the White House. One thing they watch in such a military operation, this is from the Iraq War. This is a drone flying overhead of an operation down below, and if you look here, you can see the outlines of the street, the outlines of the houses and the compounds, and people walking. See the shadows right there? People walking in the streets. You would obviously have a map up showing everyone in the Situation Room. What are we talking about in the world? Audio levels coming in from the radio transmissions, from the troops on the ground, from the helicopters overhead, from jets overhead, perhaps from a military base as well. In this case, here's your model of the bin Laden compound right here. The X's would show people on those live feeds just where are the helicopters, where are the U.S. assets as this played out. As the situation is playing out, perhaps you're watching this and something up here catches your attention. You bring that up maybe onto a bigger feed. This is a helmet cam feed from the Iraq War again. We're simulating this. Night vision equipment here. This would be something like what played out in the bin Laden compound. Going in, kicking in a door. Special forces, you see their helmet cams on them right there, going through a compound like that. Again, this is from the Iraq War. We're showing you something about what this might have looked like. Perhaps during the operation you want to see a closer look at what the compound itself looks like. You can bring in that video here. This is CNN video from today of the actual bin Laden compound, watching this play out. At the CIA, in the White House Situation Room, they have available to them all of these live feeds, some coming in from the helmet cam, some coming in from the helicopters, some coming in, perhaps, as we said, from a drone overhead that looks like this, a running clock. How long have the troops been on the ground? We were told the goal here was 30 minutes. They stayed about 38 minutes. What time is it in the region? All that available to you here, other feeds as well. And we are well aware at the CIA, they don't have just one of these, they have many of these. So even as you're watching this playing out here, at one point, tracking all of the assets, aircraft, land assets, drones, where are your cameras? You can access all this. Maybe you have additional questions as well. You can get help. You use your Google Earth technology like this. Trust me, the military uses a lot of basic technology we have as well, but they can also enhance it. Suppose in the middle of this, they want to see a live satellite feed from an eye in the sky of the town where the compound is playing out. Well, they can zoom right in. Once they see the town, they have a location on that. Maybe they're watching for something happening here, or perhaps they want to get a closer look at the compound itself. Use their technology, zoom straight in. Here's the bin Laden compound. Remember, they would have at the military the sophistication to have a live feed of this during the operation, and because they knew where they were going to go, they also have the opportunity to enhance everything on the ground here and label it to get a sense of the operation as they go. And you bring this up right here. Let me make that work a little bit. There you go. This is the actual 3D model built by the CIA. This is a diagram on which they used to build the 3D model. From those satellite images, they built this model so the SEALs could train, both on the East Coast and the West Coast, not knowing when they were training who their target was, but to train into it. So they have all this technology available to them. They can feed it from the CIA to the White House easily. Again, aerial assets, ground assets, a way to track the all this plays out in the Situation Room. We are told they did not have a live feed of the actual shooting of bin Laden, but they did have the radio transmissions as all this played out. This is remarkable technology, and trust me, theirs is even a little more fancy than ours. Ahead tonight, inside a Navy SEAL mission. A former SEAL joins us right here to discuss the training, the risks, and what he would do if Osama bin Laden came into view. And the CIA gives members of Congress a classified briefing on the bin Laden raid. We have some important new details and new questions. That's next.